Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Deanne Armstrong, and I am a Community Support Specialist and Training Consultant at DECA. Capacity is the second step of the Strategic Prevention Framework Model, or SPF as we often call it. Capacity is the process of developing and strengthening the skills, abilities, processes, attitudes, and resources that your coalition needs to survive, adapt, and thrive. Building the capacity to support your chosen evidence-based strategies is a continual and ongoing process. The phases of the Strategic Prevention Framework process are not linear or standalone. In order to build the capacity, you will have assessed the capacity first to identify the strength, weaknesses, and needs, and continue to evaluate your progress. Let's look at the different aspects of building capacity. It is essential to look at all the assets that your community has at your disposal. Look at both the strengths and the gaps that are present in your community and in your coalition, and then build on those structures that are already in place. During assessment, you should have collected the necessary data to identify strengths and gaps in both of these areas. You might ask, why is it important to build capacity? Coalitions must have the resources and readiness to support their chosen prevention programs, policies, and practices. Your community must also have the readiness needed for implementing the strategies successfully. Increasing resources and improving readiness often go hand in hand. In many cases, building resource capacity also contributes to greater community readiness. For example, when key stakeholders are engaged in solving problems, they often mobilize other community members, thereby preparing more people in the community to have buy-in and engage in the efforts. The more buy-in you have from community stakeholders, the higher the likeliness of success for implementation and sustainability of the efforts and the positive outcomes. Capacity includes mobilizing and building the ability to make a positive change in your community. Coalitions need to build and maintain capacity in all areas of the SPF process to successfully support and sustain their prevention efforts. Change, even for positive outcomes, can feel threatening and include a type of loss to some stakeholders. This could be a loss of familiarity, value, time, or something else, so it is very important to be inclusive of the stakeholders in the process and provide education to increase understanding of the process and potential positive outcomes that change and evidence-based prevention can provide. Communities begin with assessing the capacity of the coalition and the community so they know how to plan for building their capacity according to the data collected. As I stated earlier, building capacity involves increasing the resources and improving the community's readiness to do prevention work. We will talk about resources first, which will be resources involving the coalition. Some ways to increase resources, which may also improve readiness, are to engage stakeholders, raise awareness and readiness, establish and strengthen collaborative groups and partnerships, and strengthen the structure of your existing coalition. We mentioned in the previous slide the importance of engaging community stakeholders. Who are these community stakeholders? They are individuals or groups in your community who share an interest in your coalition's purpose and initiatives. Remember to be inclusive when identifying who needs to be engaged and invited to the table. What is the role of a stakeholder and why is their involvement necessary? They're needed to strengthen your efforts and provide varied perspective, leadership, abilities, and implementation to help create positive outcomes for your community. What's in it for them is a very important question to keep in mind when recruiting and maintaining coalition membership. It's important to create a win-win situation when joining forces to improve the health and quality of the community for everyone. Community stakeholders are affected by the problem in the community and have resources to contribute toward working on solving the problem. It is vital to get stakeholders engaged and working together to be a part of the solution to the identified problem. When everyone is working together and moving in the same direction, progress happens and efforts can be sustained. Raising awareness and involvement is the goal to get stakeholder and community members to make your problem a priority. Helping them to understand the problem and how they can be part of the solution will encourage their engagement and commitment. It is recommended to include at least one member from each of the 12 listed stakeholders as shown on your screen. Each of these groups brings unique assets and abilities to the table. Unusual voices are the people and groups that you seldom engage with. They have a stake in the problem too, but their opinions are rarely sought out. They may be outside the immediate circle of those usually engaged, but have the influence that will assist in producing desired change. Engaging unusual voices in your coalition's work leads to greater progress. There will be different levels of stakeholder involvement in your coalition's prevention efforts. If someone is engaged or interested but doesn't have the time, commitment, that's okay. There are different levels of involvement for different people. Different sectors and stakeholders may want or need to be involved in your prevention activities in varying degrees. This graph shows the varying levels of involvement, from no involvement to networking, cooperating, coordination, and finally to be the most involved with collaboration. There are many levels and opportunities for community members to engage in your work. Sometimes members may be at different levels at different times, depending on the need and efforts taking place. Most communities already have some kind of collaborative group or groups. Think of a group that you have been a part of. Why did you get involved and what kept you involved? Recruitment and retention are one focus of capacity building. Recruitment activities are something all members can engage in. Identifying who is missing from your group and who has a connection that could have a conversation with them and extend a personal invitation. Increasing the knowledge of the members of the coalition pertaining to the issues you are working on will give them the tools they need as they reach out to others. Remember that collaboration and networking is a two-way street. We shouldn't expect others to attend our meetings without reciprocating the efforts. Sometimes stakeholders don't have the time or ability to attend your coalition meetings, so you might engage them in other ways, like one-on-one meetings with them, committee work, volunteer activities, sending meeting minutes to them, or other ways. In order to maintain your members, it might be helpful to consider why people stay with coalitions. This could be a useful conversation to have with coalition members to anchor their commitment and remind them of their personal purpose. People usually stay involved because they have a commitment to the work and they feel valued and needed. People lead busy lives and are looking for specific opportunities with definitive time frames and opportunities that offer concrete achievements and tangible results. Understanding and identifying what skills and abilities your coalition needs will help you choose who to invite to the table. Team building and relationship building principles apply to this aspect of coalition capacity. Coalition leaders should work to make sure that all members are appropriately engaged. People are one of the most valued resources you have, but organization and infrastructure are also important to provide the elements necessary for members to be successful. Here are some important elements of a strong coalition. You may want to consider whether your coalition has or needs any of these elements to strengthen the capacity. A coalition's success depends on its strength and structure. The work of the coalition is often distributed among many partners and people, so having clear roles, structure, communication, and accountability are all very important. Although each coalition is uniquely shaped by its community, successful coalitions have many traits in common, such as ownership and support of their members, trust and reciprocity among members, active involvement, productive meetings, committed leaders, guidelines, and evaluation. It is important to make sure your coalition meetings are productive. Most stakeholders do not want to waste time attending an unproductive meeting, so make sure your coalition meetings are effective. This is a sample checklist that might be helpful when assessing the coalition to identify areas of strength and weakness when considering how to make your meetings the most effective. DECA has developed an effective meeting toolkit that also might be helpful. The link to the toolkit will be provided at the end of the module. Coalition work can easily get distracted by well-meaning stakeholders as they gather together and discuss the vast opportunities that can be accomplished. Collaboration allows for great synergy as passionate people engage in assessing and planning activities to improve the community. But without direction, this could derail the purpose of the group and cause confusion. A coalition should have both a vision and a mission statement to help direct and focus the purpose of their work and to keep them on track. An organization's mission statement describes what the group is going to do and why it's going to do that. It describes the overall purpose of the organization. DECA also has a toolkit for developing vision and mission statements. The link will be made available at the end of the module. Some coalitions find having bylaws a helpful structural tool, while others prefer a less formal structure. This is a guideline for what coalition bylaws might look like. Bylaws, formal or informal, can be helpful for everyone to understand how the coalition functions. Having written guidelines can also increase sustainability of the group. Conflict is bound to happen at some level when working with a diverse group of people. Conflict can provide an opportunity for growth if handled in a respectful and positive way. Having a conflict resolution process established can be a preventative measure for negative consequences that may arise with conflicts within your coalition. Identifying the skills needed for a successful conflict resolution can help everyone stay on track and remain productive.